If you want to invest in Bali, you need to understand two concepts, the freehold and the leasehold. So don't even start looking at villas until you get these. I'm not only explaining the differences, I'm adding insights directly from professional notaries and PPHE officers that I work with every week. So let's start with the basics, the leasehold and the freehold. The leasehold and the freehold are the two main structures you'll encounter in Bali. If you come from Europe or the US, it's normal if it sounds new. Indonesia has its own property system. Freehold means full ownership, but only Indonesian citizens can hold it. This is written in the Indonesian constitution. And be careful, because this is not a guideline, this is a hard rule. And there are actually several types of freehold equivalent titles. We have the HGB, called HGB or Hak Guna Bangunan. It's a right to build and use. A foreign-owned company, PCPMA, can hold this, but also Indonesian citizens. It's an initial duration of 30 years. Then you can extend for 20 years and a renewal again at 30 years for a total possible at 80 years. But here is a nuance few people mention. The extension after 80 years is not clearly written in the law. Some land offices allows it, some don't. This depends on the BPN interpretation, which varies by regency. This is exactly why having a strong notary matters. To finish, we have the Hak Pakai. It's a right of use for foreigners holding residency with a visa called Kitas. It's used mainly for residential purposes. The value must be above 5 billion IDR. The duration is 25 plus 20 plus 25 years for a total of 70 years. Now let's talk about leasehold. Leasehold is a long-term lease, typically 25 to 30 years, with possible extension that you need to negotiate with the landowner. So here you don't buy the land, you lease the right to use it. It's the most common option for foreigners, mainly because lower entry capital, fast ROI in high demand areas, easier for foreigners. 80% of the transactions in Bali are leasehold. But here is what people don't know. Most foreigners have no idea about what is a notary in Indonesia. A notary here is independent, neutral between buyer and seller, legally obligated to protect both parties, responsible for issuing the authentic deed. But notaries do not check the land on site, they only check formal documents. This is why due diligence can fail if you only rely on them. For on-site checks, Banjar regulations or local issues, that's when a good lawyer or a good agent becomes useful. Now let me explain you what is the due diligence. Because the due diligence is not only checking if the villa or the land is nice. Here is what actually happens legally. Concerning the document check, the notary requires land certificate, land and building tax receipts, master lease agreement if it's a sublease, and owner's IDs. They verify if everything matches. Then they check at the land office called BPN. They check if the land is mortgaged, if there is a dispute, if the certificate number matches their database, if the certificate isn't blocked or under investigation. Then we have the zoning check. Zoning is not determined by the BPN. It comes from the local PUPR office. Different regencies, different zoning colors. Meaning, pink in Tabanan isn't pink in Badung. Forget the colors. Look at the written zoning category. Agriculture, green, mostly cannot build. Residential, yellow. Business, red or orange. And tourism, pink. Tourism zoning is not the most flexible. Then we have the inheritance issues. One of the biggest reasons deals fails. The person selling is not the legal owner. In Bali, it's extremely common that the certificate is on the name of a parent. That parent passed away. The heirs never process the inheritance document. Without inheritance documents, you cannot legally lease or buy the land. The notary must force the family to process these papers before continuing. And to finish with the due diligence, the remeasurement. Certificates measured 20 years ago were done with ropes, not satellites. So result, 50% of the certificates have incorrect land size. You pay for what you measure, not what's print. Never keep remeasurement, ever. Now, based on my experience, let me explain you the real time frame of a transaction. After you got the offer accepted by the owner, you have to do the due diligence, of course. It's gonna be between 7 to 14 working days. Then you have the drafting of the agreement between 2 to 3 days. It can happen that you need to do some revisions between the parties. It can take between 3 to 10 days. And as soon as everybody is ready, you can sign at the notary. So from what I've seen, transaction can take between 2 to 3 weeks. Let me explain you what is the POA, power of attorney. This is in the case a party cannot be present. The buyer can give a simple POA. You can sign online. The seller must give a notarized POA. If it's signed abroad, it must be legalized, plus apostille. Now let's talk about tax. For the leasehold, it is 10% from the seller or landowner. In reality, the buyer often paid indirectly through negotiation. For the freehold tax, it's divided by 2. 2.5% for the seller and 5% for the buyer, for a total of 7.5%. Here are the common scams and risks for foreigners, based on real cases. We have the people selling lands they don't legally own. Family members pretending to be the owners. Lease contract written by freelancers. Deals blocked because inheritance wasn't completed. Zoning mismatches. Certificates used as bank collateral. Fake agents advertising lands not actually for sale. The only person who is legally obligated to protect both parties is the notary. So concerning your final choice, you must choose leasehold if you want the highest ROI. You want lower entry capital. You're investing in fast-growing areas. Choose HGB or freehold if you want long-term stability. You want an asset you can hold or inherit. You want to leverage the land as a bank collateral. Or you run a business requiring land as a company asset. So if you're still here, you're probably serious about investing in Bali. So I hope this extended breakdown helped you understand the realities behind the marketing. For clear underground insight, subscribe. Questions are always welcome below.